Thank you for bringing that to us, Commissioner Dailey. Okay, Madam Clerk, next item.
It's a motion and vote of the commission to mandate that the chair call a special session of the commission on September 3rd, 2019 at 4 p.m. in the main assembly room of the City County Building for the purpose of reorganizing the commission, making appointments to various boards and committees, and electing officers to the commission's standing committees.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to make a couple of comments and then I'll call on Commissioner Smith. This is something that came to us from the Rules Committee this past year that mandated that we do the reorg meeting on September 1st or the first business day coming back from thereafter, considering the Labor Day holiday. There was some discussion at the work session if we, because there were a few commissioners that might not be able to be at this, if it's the will of this body to change that day, then the steps that need to take place, we would have to vote to suspend the rules, and then to vote to suspend the rules would actually require 8 in the affirmative. Now, is that, Mr. Law Director, we have one commissioner missing tonight, so is that 8, would that be 2/3 of the whole body, or is that 2/3 of who we have here tonight, just to clarify?
2/3 of the membership.
Okay, so that would be 8 to confirm. Okay, so if it is the will of this body to do that, it would require 8 affirmative votes to suspend the rules for this one item. We could then vote on it, and then if we choose to change the date. If that motion comes before, and if it does not pass, then the reorg vote will be on, we would have to have the reorg vote on September 3rd at 4 p.m., although we could debate to a certain extent on what time of day it would be at. Is that clear enough for everyone? Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will be supporting suspending the rules. I think it's very important that as many of us are here as possible on the day that we reorganize.
All right, thank you. Is there any other discussion? All right, the chair will now open up on that note, Commissioner Smith, I'm going to look to you, and would you consider that a motion to suspend?
I make a motion we suspend the rules.
Second. Okay, we have a motion to suspend the rules by Commissioner Smith and seconded by Commissioner Anders. Now, discussion. Is there any discussion on this item? Okay. Commissioner Schoonmaker.
Well, and just for clarification, and I'll defer to Drew, but I believe we set this date in July of 2018. So 13 months ago, we could have put it on our calendar that we're having a meeting on that September the 3rd. Is that correct?
It was passed by resolution.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Does this require a roll call vote, Mr. Law Director?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I believe so. Okay, Commissioner Carringer?
And let me just add, circumstances happen, and that not being a full week for Knox County and being the end of summer, and we have Commissioner Gill, who is away at a family funeral, and also her mom lives there in Mississippi, and she has an uncle that has been placed on hospice that they're not expecting to any day, and she had planned to go and spend the whole week through Labor Day with her family, which is very, very important, and out of respect for Mrs. Gill. But also I'd heard that Commissioner Bessler was going to be gone, and now he says he may be driving back in from South Carolina and going back. Anyway, there's circumstances that could change and might hamper him being back. As far as me, there may be a hurricane and I may not get to go, but they will refund our money. But that's my, that's my feel on it. I don't understand what the big, I guess, sort of disrespect there is, or to, I have accommodated myself many a times for people on commission whose work schedules don't accommodate, but I have never complained about it. But, vote with whatever. If it's that big a deal, it's really that we reorganize by the end of September or in September. So, but certainly feel free to do what you think is in respect to all your colleagues. Whether or not I was going to be here or not, I may be, but it's respect for your colleagues and particularly respect for somebody who has some family sadness right now. And so let your conscience be your vote, I guess.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Is there any other discussion on this item? Okay, now, to restate exactly what we're voting on. We are voting on to suspend the rules as it applies to this specific item. We are not voting on a date. We're not voting anything. And the outcome of that vote will determine the next action. Is that perfectly clear for everyone? Okay, Madam Clerk, I believe this is a roll call item.
Chairman, I got a quick question.
Yes, Commissioner Biggs.
What's
Yeah.
the rules? The rules state that it's supposed to be the first day after the 1st of September. What, can you give me the rule? I was asking.
First business day.
Okay, so is the business day that Monday?
No, that's a holiday.
It's Labor Day
So
holiday.
September 1st is
So it
Sunday.
automatically roll to the 3rd, which is
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay. How long does reorganization take?
An hour and a half at the most.
All right, and what's the rule state about Skyping in?
You can't.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at a law department for that clarification.
No, you can't.
Yeah, I mean, you can if we, no electronic.
No electronic communication over.
If we were having a work session and someone wanted to listen in and participate that way with no vote, but for the vote to count, it's got to be in present.
All right, thank you.
So, yeah, thank you. Yes, Commissioner Smith?
Just a little background on this. I remember whenever I was elected chair, it was the day of the work session. Went from organization straight over here, straight to running a meeting. And this came about because we wanted to try to avoid that. We also wanted to try to avoid if there was something bad happened in the county and we had to call a meeting, we weren't organized. I think the rule's a little concrete here when it needs a little bit of flexibility to where we can try to accommodate everybody. Maybe we shouldn't have pinned it down into the first business day in September when I think our charter really says we have till the end of September or
Before your next called meeting.
before your next call meeting, which is all the way up to the third Monday of the month. Again, I think as a body that works together, we should do everything we can to make sure everybody is here when we reorganize.
All right, Commissioner Schoonmaker.
Thank you. One of the things, though, you kind of touched on and actually occurred during that time lapse to where we did meet on that work session day. We were trying to get an emergency resolution passed, and we were informed by the law department because we hadn't formally organized, we couldn't do an emergency resolution. So that all fell by the wayside. But if we'd have followed the procedure of that first business day, we would have been able to do it. So that's why we backed it up. And then, of course, the feeling was if you have a new chairman, you don't want to just throw them into the work session and not having an opportunity to prepare and so forth. So,
Understand. Okay, Commissioner Jay, then Beeler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to address some Commissioner Carrender's comments. I think this is not necessarily about respect or not respecting of anybody's time. I think it's about a precedence that we're about to go down potentially of basically personal conflicts, which could be personal, it could be family, it could be vacation, it could be school, it could be illness, it could be anything. That if you begin the suspension of rules to change the calendar on something that's set in the rules as a structured thing, then what prevents us from saying Commissioner Dailey is in knee surgery and we would like to suspend the rules to not have this meeting here, there, whatever. And, we all have sacrifices. We have work, we have family, we have spring breaks were gone, we have work conflicts, and several of us, have spent tremendous time and effort to return and financial means to return, from work trips or other things. I just think it's more about a precedence of do you want to go down the path of changing the rules according to everybody's schedules. And we all going to certainly have respect and consideration, especially for illness, for family members, for deaths in the family. I think that's without question. It's more, to go down this, that means next month, somebody else is going to have a conflict, and next month, somebody else is going to have a conflict, and where do you end? I mean, where do you continue to jockey the schedule? So, just wanted to address that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jay. Commissioner Beeler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Much of what Commissioner Jay said was what I was going to say, and that is that the camaraderie on this body is very evident from the retreat, from just other things, and the way we interact with each other. I don't think this is personal. I don't think this is an issue of respect. I think that this is an issue that affects more people than just the members of this body. When and where we meet and so forth affects the clerk's office, it affects the law department, it affects the public, it affects department heads and a lot of people. So, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Carringer.
Yes, and reorganization, this is going to be the third reorganization. We've never had a problem getting it scheduled, getting it reorganized. There seems to be this real hurry, rush, we got to have it this day. If, for instance, Ms. Gill isn't back and Mr. Bustler can't make it back, and suppose I'm not or something else, you don't even have a tiebreaker. But all besides that, we have amended rules on many times about situations. Something as important as reorganization, that's important to every commissioner and with their committees and all. So there seems to be this hurry, we got to do it this certain day, which tends to be a little disturbing to me. So, and let me just tell you, if Commissioner Dailey was having surgery, I would be more than glad to reschedule a day for Mr. Dailey to be here. But for whatever, I mean, it's, as the body as a whole, I just, I think this is probably one of the most important things that we do. So it seems to be kind of disturbing to see that we can't come together with a good date, to me, when you've got a good 2 or 3 weeks there. But
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Carringer. Commissioner Bustler.
Thank you. When they schedule that date, I always schedule dates in my phone that comes and clicks along. And when I was making my vacation schedule, it clicked up that we had reorganization on the 3rd. When we were getting ready to go, we're going to go anyway. We may leave tonight or tomorrow morning. We don't know, but we'll be gone. But I've got it in the plans to be back here at 4 o'clock when it was originally scheduled. So I made plans back then. Whether you all change it or not, that's up to you all. But I will be here at the date that you said. And I had made specific plans to be back here. So this thing where he may or may not be back, unless I get killed on the road, come up here, I will be back here for that date.
Let's hope that does not happen.
But if that's the schedule, I looked on my schedule for next year, and I'm scheduled for the first day after again, and the next year after that, because this phone does that crazy thing, so you know when it's happening. So anyway, don't do it because you think I'm not going to be here, okay? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Bustler. Commissioner Jay.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I just had one quick question. This is obviously separate of what is immediately before us, which is the suspension of the rules. But has anybody actually proposed a date that would work for Commissioner Gill, for Commissioner Carringer, the clerk's office, the law department, and the other 17 people? Or is that all a conversation that's after the first conversation? I mean, has anybody even proposed anything separately of that? Or is that conversation not even going to begin?
That has not been proposed. However, I had Drusilla, in anticipation of this potential vote, sent out a copy of the calendar for this room to know exactly what was available in the month of September.
Well, that's just a calendar of the room, though. That's not
Yeah,
understanding of
you
the
gotta,
other
you gotta start
departments that-
somewhere, so, yeah. Okay, all right, this motion to review, is there any other discussion or questions on this item? The motion that was brought to us by Commissioner Smith is to suspend the rules as it applies to this particular item on our agenda. It would require 8 positive votes to suspend the rules. So, Madam Clerk, would like you to lead a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Beeler.
No.
Commissioner Beeler votes no. Commissioner Dailey.
No.
Commissioner Dailey votes no. Commissioner J.
No.
Commissioner J votes no. Commissioner Biggs.
Aye.
Commissioner Biggs votes aye. Commissioner Carringer.
Aye.
Commissioner Carringer votes aye. Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith votes aye. Commissioner Nystrom.
Aye.
Commissioner Nystrom votes aye. Commissioner Schoonmaker.
No.
Commissioner Schoonmaker votes no. Commissioner Anders.
Aye.
Commissioner Anders votes aye. And Commissioner Bustler.
No, no matter what you do.
I'll vote aye.
Commissioner Bustler votes aye.
Eight would be a press. Did he get 8?
Do any commissioners wish to change their vote? Okay, the motion does not pass. The total is 6-4. The ayes have 6, the noes have 4. This required a vote of 2/3 majority, which would have been 8 votes. So, with that said, still operating, that was as specific to suspend the rules. We still have the motion before us, which is item number 50, which is a motion and vote of the commission to mandate that we call a specially called session of the commission on September 3rd at 4 p.m. in the main assembly room. That is the motion. It can be modified as to time